What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and this is going to be my breakdown of the new Valentine Banner that has got really powerful units and a lot of text. So here we have got Valentine Edelgard and she is an axe armor and she is extremely powerful with the things that she can do. We already saw Winter Edelgard doing a lot of things, setting up the flame terrain, but this Edelgard is all about nuking and she is going to be extremely bulky. And she's going to be trying to kill a lot of the shield fighter armors like we have been seeing nowadays with the nukes. So here she has got Eagle's Heart as her preferred weapon. Keep in mind that she is an armor unit, and here she has got counter remaining +1 built in her weapon, and minimum this is going to be 2. So obviously this kind of thing is amazing on a unit that can get multiple actions. It really helps you position yourself better. You can retreat to your team. You could even, retreat a little bit so that you could dance up a unit like this and then just go ham on your opponent or even finish them off. So this is good. And then she has got minus in special cooldown. And after Canto, if the unit has entered the combat in the current turn, then you get another action and your Canto gets refreshed. This is only once per turn, and it does not trigger when you're affected by any kind of traps in Aether Raid's offense. So this kind of Canto refresh is fantastic, and I would say that this is like Gale Force. I say Gale Force because you need to enter into the combat to get that extraction. So it's kind of near Gale Force than the completely independent extraction that you could get. So you need to enter the combat and you cannot get the extraction for free to test out the traps like Brave Felix, for example. So you're still able to act multiple times, but you need to enter the combat. And if she initiates combat, or if the number of adjacent allies is 1 or less, then she inflicts the penalty on foes' attack and defense by 20% of her defense, which is visible +6. So this is going to be usually around 17 to 19 depending on your investment. She does have really high defense at base 49, and she also gets true damage depending on X multiplied by 5. So here X is going to be the number of bonus status active on her and the number of penalty status active on the foe. And this is going to be max 5, so it is going to be getting multiplied by 5, which means that you get 25 true damage, which is quite a lot. And this kind of true damage condition is something that we're seeing nowadays quite a lot because these units get multiple status effects and they debuff the enemies for multiple status effects. And if you build your team around that, this can quickly snowball and you're not really going to be having trouble getting the max true damage. You also get the flat damage reduction based on X multiplied by 3 in the combat, and this is not going to be getting applied to the AoE specials, so you get 15 flat damage reduction, and then you get another instance of extra flat damage reduction on the enemy specials. So this is going to be 15 flat damage reduction, and we have seen this quite a lot on many of the units like Brave Felix, NIDHOGGR, and so many units where they get 2 layers of flat damage reduction, and then after the combat she recovers 7 HP. So usually I would not like this kind of healing on a Gale Force unit, but the thing is that nowadays we just have so many player phase options that it really doesn't matter that much. She has got the extra actions. You've got the Lin Ring, you've got Emblem Sigurd, you've got Emblem Lin herself, you've got 2 turns of safety fence. Like there's a lot of wiggle room to just hit and run or even just finish off the enemies. So you don't really have to run double fury build on her necessarily, and despite this healing she is still going to be able to do a fantastic job as a Gale Force unit. And the best thing is that she doesn't even need to run Gale Force. Armored Blaze is going to be the special you would need to run a lot of the times because it does the actual damage. So back in those days, when we had Winter Edelgard, a lot of people would just run Gale Force as her special, get multiple actions. But nowadays, like I said, we have a lot of player phase tools, but you need the power. You cannot compromise on the power because you're going to be facing a lot of tanky units. So instead of getting the extraction, you need to have a damaging special. This is the reason why a lot of Brave Felix simply run Gust or Blazing Wind as their special. You cannot have a special that does no damage like Gale Force. And then she's got Sly Sturdy Blow, which a lot of units did want, and this was the thing that we're missing. And In just a couple of months, we have got the almost like entire family, like relevant family of skills of these, Sly skills. And many of the other old skill lines are still left in the dust. So this is mainly going to be a player phase skill, and she is a player phase unit, and she does have the visible status effects from her Slotsy skill, and also the debuffs, so she can easily activate the effect out of this, get even more true damage, and this also gives you the guaranteed follow-up attack, which she is missing from her weapon and her preferred slot B skill. So definitely a really good skill, but not a lot of units are instantly going to be wanting to have this, other than like player phase units. And then she's got Pure Storm, which is an insane upgrade of Raging Storm. So at sort of turn and also after a unit acts, you're going to be able to inflict -7 attack and defense debuff, the exposure status, and the sabotage status on the closest foes and foes in 2 spaces of those foes. So this is doubly good because you're going to be facing Freyr, cleansing like that, and because you do the middle of the turn debuff, you're going to be able to affect them similar to how Mythic NIDHOGGR does it, or, Rheon Thiazi. But here, Edelgard doesn't have to abide by being in the cardinal direction. She just spreads that. So this is extremely powerful. You get even more true damage, and the sabotage effect does have good synergy with the debuffs. And then she has got the effect which sets her apart from Edelgard's. I mean, Edelgard has got extra actions, but this Edelgard is going to be able to disable the foe special in her player phase if it's not the first combat of the foe, and she's got multiple actions and she's bulky enough to survive. So if she gets the extra action, then you're simply dying because your Pavis with Shield Fighter is not triggering, your offensive specials are not triggering. So this is similar to Lucia or Fagato, and this is obviously a really powerful effect, especially on a unit like her with high killing power. It's gonna be really hard to survive multiple combats against her when your specials do not work against her. You're not able to kill or even defend your units from the damage that she's going to be doing. And this is what is going to be making her an amazing melee new. Just imagine her with Desert Marissa from a distance, and she gives her the brave attacks, and then if somehow you're able to survive the brave attacks, then the next combat that she's able to get, you're not able to trigger any of your specials. So that is quite powerful. And then she has got the -5 attack and defense debuff on the foe, and she also gets another layer of true damage based on 20% of her defense. This is not going to be added into your AoE specials, and she's also got 50% damage reduction piercing passively, and of course she has got the Raging Storm effect where she has got the Gale Force, so she's able to have multiple actions. And like I said, you could run Gale Force, but I would suggest you need to have Armored Blaze, and this kind of extra action is going to be really obnoxious if she has got Celica Ring, which people are going to be running on her. And even nowadays, like, Winter Edelgard is not the most insane unit, but she can still be annoying in Arena because she's got the Celica Ring, and even though I've got a plus in Marnie, my Marnie is a far savior, so with the Celica Ring, these kinds of extra action units can simply snipe your backline units, so it can be a bit annoying at times that you, of course, need to watch out for. And she has got Assault Rush as the new Assault Troop upgrade, and this is a really strong skill. And I'm glad that this is an option for the player phase armors. I mean, most of the player phase armors are going to be Edelgards, but still having more options are nice. So this is going to be giving you +6 attack buff. You also get the charge status, and you get the +1 movement. So it is going to be giving you multiple ways of increasing your mobility, and you're probably going to be running Celica Ring on top of it. So you've got the charge status, you've got the +1 movement, and the warping of Celica Ring. So you can just function much better as a player phase armor. And in your player phase, you also get +5 attack in the combat, and you get the preempt pulse. So this can help you trigger your specials easily, and even Gale Force, because this kind of preempt pulse is going to be applying to Gale Force. And this is amazing on any kind of player phase armor. Like I said, a lot of armors are not going to be able to function at the level of Edelgards, but still, you kind of get bored of running save armors again and again. Like, how many save armors you're going to be building up? So sometimes you need that player phase armor, even though it's not the best option. And units like Ninja Zelgius can still make use of this. because they have got a brave weapon. So it is going to be a nice player phase skill that I'm happy that we're finally getting. I hope we can also get Wildfire for. So that is going to be Edelgard. And yeah, this Assault Rush is going to be inheritable to armors, obviously, and infantry units. And this is a really stacked skill. So even many of the infantry units are going to be loving to have this. So Valentine Edelgard, while she's got the same extra action shenanigans, she disables the specials of the enemies if it's not their first combat. And she also hits extremely hard, debuffs the enemy, has got so much flat damage reduction, which is one of the things that Winter Edelgard was missing. For how strong Winter Edelgard is, she's not as bulky. Like I've run her with Miracle many times in Summoner Duels, but even then, you know, she can die. But this Edelgard has got so many layers of flat damage reduction, and Armor Blaze also gives that to you. And Valentine Edelgard has got 50 base attack with a super boon, so she has got very min-max stat line as you would expect out of this kind of premium armor. She also is able to score well, and if you have Legendary Edelgard, then yeah, this Lotsy skill is what you have been waiting for as an upgrade. And here we have got Valentine Dimitri. This time he is a Sword Cavalier. They didn't really make him a Lance Cavalier, but still, you know, he is going to be able to function as a player phase nuke with all of the tools and upgrades that he has gotten in this version. So he also has the Cantor remaining +1 movement, minimum 2. So you don't really need any kind of Sigurd ring to begin with. And he does get minus on special cooldown. So Haste Slice becomes a 2 cooldown special, which he's able to immediately trigger because of the preempt pulses. And just like Edelgard, he also gets the Gale Force and the Cantor Refresh after he has entered the combat and after he has got the Canto. So that can help you get multiple actions, and with the Shadow Shift that he has got, it is really good for positioning in your units. And at start of turn, if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he gives himself the +1 movement status. And keep in mind that this is only for him. He does not give this out to his other allies like maybe Jill or something like that. So he only gets this for himself. However, he gives himself and the allies in 2 spaces the null debuff status and also the special charges status. So the special charges status can be helpful, but I would say that null debuffs is a lot more helpful nowadays because of, you know, all of the debuffs that we've got around. So it really helps because many times, like, you know, you don't want to waste an action refreshing and dancing up a unit just to get rid of their debuffs, and you're not always going to be having the cleansing. So this kind of status does help, and if he initiates combat or if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he can get extra stats depending on 15% of his visible speed with +5. So this is going to be around +13 to +15, and he also gets true damage multiplied by 5. And here the X is going to be same as Edelgard, the bonus status effect on him and the penalty status effect on the enemy, and that is going to be max 5, so 25 true damage. And he also gets the 15 flat damage reduction on foes first attacks, including the brave hits. So this kind of flat damage reduction is going to be there in 2 instances. So first for the regular attacks, and then if the enemy triggers an offensive special, then it is going to be another layer of 15 flat damage reduction. So it is going to be going really well with the Excel skill for making sure that he can survive. And then at the end, he also has the 7 HP healing after the combat, and he comes with a new inedible special for the Flyers and Cavaliers that are melee, and this is going to be Haste Slice. So if you already have some kind of damage reduction piercing in your weapon or in your preferred skill maybe, then this is going to be a nice special, and it is going to be scaling off based on 35% of your attack, and it is only going to be working with its secondary condition in the player phase. So it gives you the preempt pulse, and it also gives you the unpierceable 40% damage reduction. So it is kind of limited because it's only there in the player phase, but I guess a lot of Cavaliers are mainly going to be player phase focused, but still, I mean, it wouldn't really hurt at this point for them to get this kind of effect in both phases. So like I said, if you already have some piercing, then this is going to be the special of choice because no quarter is going to be a bit redundant when you already have some piercing. So it's kind of nice to, you know, diversify your kit in a way, having some damage reduction and also the preempt pulse, which can also help and stack up with the other preempt pulse. And of course, he comes with attack speed XL, which gives him even more flat damage reduction along with his weapon. And he has got Pure Atrocity, and if he initiates combat or if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, he inflicts -5 speed and defense debuff on the foe, and he has got the 25% true damage based on his attack, just like, original Dimitri. So this is going to be increasing his firepower, and again, this is going to be even more true damage on top of his weapon, and he also has Preempt Pulse, and this is going to be stacking up with the Haste Slice, Preempt Pulse, so this is going to be immediately helping you trigger Haste Slice, and he also has the Full Null follow-up so that he can double, and he is really fast at base 47. He also has the passive 50% damage reduction piercing, which, like I said, is perfect with this kind of special, and he has a very unique effect, which we haven't really seen that much in this kind of way. So after the combat, if he attacked, then he erases 2 bonus status effects on the target and any foe in 2 spaces of the target. So this is gonna be erasing the first 2 bonus status effects on the priority list, and this is a kind of smoke effect, that we have seen on Atrocity, but this is a deadly smoke because this can erase your status effect. So there is the priority list, and I want to thank BC from the FEH competitive Discord for making this priority list in such a short amount of time. They made this priority list in a couple of hours after the trailer being out, so I was just blown away by the speed. As you can see, we have 56 status effects that are bonus in nature. So as you can see, Azure is going to be giving you that Resonant Blades and Shields, and he's going to be erasing those 2 status effects, and your really valuable effects like Bulwark or a Triangle Attack, Dual Strike, Potent, Preempt Pulse are really far back in the priority list. So these relatively low value status effects like Incited, the Resonant Blade, Shields are going to be going first. However, there are some high value status effects that are kind of high on this priority list, like Future Witness, Dosage, Divinely Inspiring. Like, all of these are new status effects that we've got, and even Empathy status. So you have to watch out for this, and if you're facing Dimitri, then you gotta give your units the low value status effects so that those get erased first. Kind of like how we manage Attune Micaiah and her cleansing. She also cleanses only the first 2 penalty effects from the priority list, so you can often just overwhelm her with many negative status effects, and she's going to be cleansing the highest priority one, so you can have the other effects stay. And then coming back to Dimitri, he also has the Deadly Miasma built in his weapon, so it is going to be helping you set up the Haste Terrain, which has got the -5 Omni debuffs, and it also has the Dull All effect. So being a cavalry unit, he can only run Deadly Miasma, but he's able to set up this terrain, and setting up this kind of terrain is going to be overriding the enemy's stone tiles. So it does have the merit of helping you against those kinds of teams, and it is going to be, relatively easy for him to set it up compared to a lot of other cavaliers, because he does have that flat damage reduction going for him. So it does help set it up, and then he has got Shadow Shift to abuse the extra actions and the counter that he gets out of his weapon. So he is a pretty solid cavalry nuke that we've got, but the ceiling for the cavalry nukes is pretty high nowadays with Emblem Sigurd with the Gallop status. But Emblem Sigurd is getting countered a bit nowadays, as you can see with this banner itself. So Dimitri here is going to be doing the old-fashioned nuking with the +1 movement like Brave Seliph, and he's basically going to be overwhelming you with the extractions and the haste terrain that he can set up, but he doesn't really get through the shield fighter effect like Edelgard by ignoring the specials, but still strong. And then we have got Valentine Claude. I was honestly expecting him to be the demote or the 4-star focus, because he has gotten that treatment in the summer banner, in the winter banner, but he is not a demote, and there's no 4-star focus on this banner. So he is a Blue Bow Cavalier this time, and he is, of course, just an upgrade of the playstyle that we have seen. So he has got Deer's Heart as the 14 might preferred weapon. He has got Canto remaining movement, so it's not the best nowadays, but still, at least it has got the minimum 1 Canto, which is what you need out of any kind of Canto effect at the bare minimum to move around after using the Emblem Lin Ring. So at least he's able to get that, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the counter remaining movement as an effect. And then he has got minus on special cooldown, so Curve Shot becomes a 1 cooldown special. And just like Edelgard Dimitri, he also has the Gale Force and the counter refresh, but he is a ranged unit unlike them, and he has got the access to Lin Ring. And in the good old days of my times, people used to face the penalty of the gravity status for getting the extra action and Gale Force, but now he doesn't, so that is kinda insane. And then he has got the null follow-up status and the preempt pulse status, which he could give to himself and the allies in 2 spaces, so he can immediately trigger Curve Shot and get the damage reduction out of it. And he also gives out that to the other units, and I was kind of not expecting another unit giving out the preempt pulse status so quickly after Emblem Lin, so he is going to be helping you with that. And because, like I said, he's a ranged unit, the extraction is extremely helpful. And then he's also able to get the extra stats depending on 15% of his visible speed added with 5, similar to Dimitri. So it is going to be around 13 to 15. And just like Edelgard and Dimitri, he has got the same condition for getting his true damage. So he can get up to 25 true damage. However, he doesn't get the multi-layered flat damage reduction in the weapon like them. And he instead gets the Null Guard, which can help him trigger the special again, and also the 7 HP healing that they also have. So being a ranged Gale Force unit is going to be strong. And I mean, I was kind of joking before with the gravity status because it doesn't mean much when you just have Celica Ring to warp around, but for him it's even more of a non-issue. He just does not care about that. And then he has got Curve Shot because he does have the passive damage reduction piercing. So again, Deadeye would just be redundant, and most of the archers kind of want to have Curve Shot nowadays for the unpierceable damage reduction. Then just like Valentine Claude, he does stick with the prime scale. I guess Cavaliers don't really have too many options, and he kind of wants to function a little bit in the enemy phase, so it can give him the close counter effect. And he has got pure Starfall. So if he initiates combat or if the Deep Star status is active on him, then he inflicts the -5 speed and defense debuff on the foe, and he gets more true damage based on 20% of his speed. And he didn't get the flat damage reduction out of his weapon, but he gets that here on the first attack of the enemies based on 20% of his speed. And again, you know, this is flat damage reduction, so this is quite good for a ranged unit along with all of the damage reduction he gets. He also gets the 50% damage reduction piercing, and he also gets the scowl effect, kind of similar to Ash, but it's a bit better than Ash because Ash only gets that in the player phase, but here Claude can get it if he has got the Deep Star status active on him. And this kind of scowl is more akin to Hush Spectrum, so it doesn't really have a resistance check, so it can help you just tone down the special of the enemy while you yourself trigger your specials with the preempt pulse and everything. And if the unit initiated combat, then it does give him the 80% pierceable damage reduction on the first attacks. So it's kind of there to help you along with the flat damage reduction to survive. And then after you have initiated combat, you have got the Deep Star and the Vantage status yourself. And this is going to be giving him another aspect to his playstyle. Of course, you don't have to stick with, trying to Vantage the enemy. You're going to be getting countered by the Hardy Bearing Sacred Seal. But still, like I said, it is just an extra thing that you could try and use to your advantage. And you might remember Winter Dimitri with this similar playstyle of initiating first to get the Vantage. And many times it doesn't work the best, but here the difference is that Valentine Claude is a ranged unit and you have access to Lin Ring, so initiating combat is a bit easier as you don't really need to bother with the traps and everything, and then you could get the extra action and then proceed from there. And this is nice with the flat damage reduction and the Deep Stars pierceable damage reduction that he can fall back upon. So he is going to be a bit more bulky than what he seems. And then he has got the Gravity One Space Smoke that we have seen before. And Gravity is not the most insane effect, but with the Lin Ring, it's pretty nice to inflict this to the enemies as he can slow them down and basically have a better hit and run many of the time, so it's still useful. And then he has got a new slotsy skill in attack speed insight hone, so at start of turn, you give yourself and the allies in 2 spaces the +6 attack and speed buff and the insighted status. So it does expand the support to the other allies, and then you get extra attack and speed in the combat depending on number of the allies on the entire map with the insighted status +2, and max this can be +5 to your stats. So it does have the global check, and this is going to be nice support compared to inside attack speed, as you're able to give this to your other allies. But still, you know, insighted status is not the most insane status in grand scheme of things when we have got, you know, future witness, dosage status, such stacked status effects. But still, this is another slotsy skill in the line of many of the slotsy skill for these range cavalry units. So Valentine Claude might not look the most insane unit on your first impression, but I think that he is kind of sleeper good with all of the effects that you've got, and I do like the mix-up that you can do with the extraction, and then you could try and snipe something with the Lin Ring and then retreat. So that's always amazing, and you can always, you know, try and function even in the mixed phase because of the vantage effect that he's able to get. And he's gonna be hitting relatively hard, and then he gets the unpierceable damage reduction of the curve shot, the flat damage reduction out of his slot B, and then the pierceable damage reduction out of his deep star. So he's got 3 layers of damage reduction. And then we have got the Star of the Banner and duo Rhea with Sothis. So she is a colorless armored dragon, and she is easily one of the most insane armor units that we have got, and that's saying quite a lot because we have got 2 NIDHOGGRs in a span of a few months, and then we have got a tuned Hector. So here we have got her with Devoted Breath, which does give her the minus some special cooldown, and then it has got the Dragon Shield built in it, so your effective against dragon effects are not going to be working. And then for the allies that are in 3 spaces of her, she has basically got the 3 space drive support, and she gives them the +5 defense and resistance in combat, and also gives them the 7 flat damage reduction on the first attacks. So I guess this is the Nabatean special because Seth also has this in a way with his Refine, and he's a free-to-play unit. And Rhea also has this. I'm not sure why Flame doesn't have it. And then she also gives you the Miracle in the enemy phase to your allies in 3 spaces. So this is actually really strong, and we have seen how annoying Miracle can be on these kinds of units, and she just does so many things that she gives this passively to the other units, and you're not running her just for the Miracle like Fallen Maria or Ymir. So this kind of Miracle is going to be limited in scope because it is going to be in the enemy phase. So even though I gave the example of Ymir is still helpful if you're trying to nuke with Lin Ring, and Rhea's Miracle is more helpful when you're trying to tank something in the enemy phase, as it is going to be active and it is going to be once per turn. And because of it, this unit is going to be a problem because she just is really tanky. She has got good combat, and then she gives out this support. So it's kind of like NIDHOGGR's giving the dosage status while being so insanely tanky. Attuned Hector setting up the stone terrain. So nowadays units just do a lot of things except for doing my taxes. And if the foe initiates combat, or if the foe's HP is at or above 75%, then she's able to get extra attack, defense, and resistance based on 20% of her visible resistance added with 5. So this is usually going to be around 16 to 18. And she also gets the true damage just like the other units from this banner, but her condition is a bit different. She counts the number of allies in 3 spaces of her times 5, so it is going to be max 15. However, if she triggers a savior skill, then this value is treated as max 15. So she is going to be saving most of the time, and she's going to be getting the max true damage. And she also gets the flat damage reduction based on the same condition, and that is going to be 15 flat damage reduction. And then she has got even more damage reduction in her slot B skill that is flat in nature. And she also has 50% damage reduction piercing herself, so that's helpful because armor units don't really have much of a scope of running the piercing skills or anything like that. They need to be focusing on their bulk. And she herself has got the miracle. So she is essentially like a premium, super premium Dragon Marnie who has got the miracle that is once per combat, but she also gives out the miracle to her allies in 3 spaces. And she is a dragon, so she hits the resistance stat of a lot of the nukes, like Emblem Heroes, who don't really have that high of a resistance. And then she's got Dragon's Roar, which is going to be giving her the unpierceable damage reduction. And if you run the twin save skill, then it can give you the damage reduction twice. And Dragon's Roar is kind of better than Armored Flow on these kinds of armors because it's flexible, as it gives you the damage reduction against the melee enemies and also against the ranged enemies. So I do like it, similar to how Sturdy Beast is there on NIDHOGGRs. Then she has got the first layer of Scowl with Defense Red Scowl, which we did get a year ago on Valentine Banner, and here she is with that. So maybe this is the Valentine Dragon special. And then she's got the Pure Dragon Wall, which is gonna be a massive upgrade from High Dragon Wall. And it has got the Phantom Resistance built in, which helps her a lot, and she already has 50 resistance at base with a super boon. So it is gonna be pretty hard to defeat her when it comes to these kinds of resistance checks. And because of that, she's got the Dragon Wall built in, but this is the better Dragon Wall because on the first combat of either phase, she's going to be getting 60% damage reduction based on the difference in resistance. And because this is Dragon Wall, inherently, it is going to be having the damage reduction against the AoE specials. It only doesn't give you the AoE damage reduction against the Rooker Siege AoE specials. So yeah, this might matter twice in a single year. And then if it's not your first combat in either of the phases, then you get the 40% damage reduction. And then she inflicts the -5 attack, defense, and resistance on the foe. And she has got the true damage based on 30% of her resistance on the first combats, or if it's not, then it is going to be 20%, which is still quite a lot. And this is going to be added into your AoE specials, but I mean, outside of the memes, you're really not going to be running an AoE armor, especially an armor as tanky as her. And then she has got the Null Guard and the Scowl effect, so she has got the second layer of Scowl. And this does give you the flexibility of running something like Stronghold in her slotty because she doesn't have the null debuffs or the cleansing, and she could, use that. But nowadays we have got so much special jumping and so much pre-impulse that double Scowl might be the way to go. So it can help you tank better, and it also gives you the pre-impulse, but this is the Lagoose Friend style of pre-impulse, where you get the -1 special cooldown before the foe's first attack, so it's not before your first attack. So this can help you with your specials, obviously, to just pre-charge them, get the damage reduction out of them, like with Dragon's Roar, and then retaliate back with them. And because she's got Null Guard, she's not going to be having any kind of trouble retaliating back with it. And then finally, what she was lacking was some kind of healing, and then she gets that at start of turn. And after the combat, if there is any kind of dragon or beast ally on her team, which is going to be there with newer NIDHOGGR or mythic NIDHOGGR in a lot of scenarios, or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, which is also not that hard to do for a unit like her. So she gets the 10 HP healing, but it does mean that in the last man standing scenarios, or I guess last Nabatean standing scenarios in Summoner Duels, she's not going to be getting any kind of healing. So that kind of thing does matter in game modes like Summoner Duels, where you are going to be losing units and you may even be down to your last unit. And then she's got the Slotsy skill Lower Ground. So we just had newer NIDHOGGR with Higher Ground. So Lower Ground is the same thing with the warp blocking built in. However, it gives you the near save effect instead of the far save effect. So this goes really well with many of the far saviors like Attuned Hector, because he could just function as an amazing far savior against the Lin Ring users and against Emblem Lin herself. And he sets up the Stone Terrain, and here Rhea has got unimaginable amounts of AoE resistance with all of the things that she's gotten. So she can do the role of warp blocking, or you could run her with Mythic NIDHOGGR, who gives the dosage status and far saves for you. and she's also incredibly tanky. So Rhea is going to be an amazing fit with a lot of the Far Saviors that we've got nowadays, and she can even function as a Far Savior herself, but obviously that is going to be needing some foddering to do on your end, and it is also going to need you to give her the Distant Counter Dragon Seeker seal because she doesn't have the innate Distant Counter, and she cannot run Distant Counter Echo because she's got a preferred skill, so you can only have one of the two. So it is going to be hard, but you know, it's possible, and she is definitely the best Nier Savior in the game right now. Before her, I would say that Attuned Hector was the best Nier Savior, and I know he comes with Distant Counter Echo and a Far Save, but still, he's just that good with the Stone Terrain and his matchups that he could just function as a Nier Savior really well, and then NIDHOGGRs would just manage the Far Saving matchups. But now you could run Rhea, and she is pretty much a counter to Emblem Sigurd because she's got a lot of AoE damage reduction that can make Halloween Nagi blush, and I have faced a plus 10 Halloween Nagi once in Ether Raids that was plus 10 merge, and my Emblem Sigurd was doing no damage with his AoE special or even in the combat, and that is going to be happening to you when you face her with your Emblem Sigurd. So dealing with the AoE specials is an important thing for many of these Nier Saviors because of Emblem Sigurd, and you can see that many times, you know, your Emblem Sigurd is not going to be able to kill NIDHOGGRs who don't even have any kind of AoE damage reduction to begin with, and here Rhea comes with a lot of it, with her flat damage reduction, with her Dragon Wall, and obviously her naturally high defense. So that's gonna be a problem, but the one unit that she needs to watch out for is gonna be New Year Valgr or even Mythic Valgr because she's got absurd amounts of damage output, and her miracle is non-special in nature, which means that it is affected by the null miracle status of Mythic Valgr, and if Lady of Valg is not able to take her down, then Valgr herself is able to do it, so you will need to watch out for that. And because she provides you with the miracle support, if you want to get past that, then you of course need the null miracle status or the Fatal Smoke 4, which is so much in demand because of Marnie alone, so you can imagine how Rhea is going to be pumping up the stocks of that. And you also need the Feud effect if you don't have any of those things, because Feud effect means that against her allies you're going to be able to stop her miracle support, so they're not going to be getting any of that. They also wouldn't get the flat damage reduction from her, so it is going to be a bit easier to kill them. And Attuned Bridget does come with the Feud effect, so we have got some of the refines with the Feud effect as well. Parrot Veronica can also spread that as a status, and of course we have got the Embla, so that is going to be beneficial to you if you're trying to counter her annoying miracle support. So Duo Rhea is absolutely the best unit out of this banner in my opinion, because she is incredible as a tank, as a support, as a Nier Savior, and also as a duo unit who can enable the duo hindrance and ether rates for you. And her duo button is also going to be relevant for summoner duels usage. So competitively, she has got a lot of things going for her. And here she has got her duo skill, which is not the most insane in terms of the word length, but it is going to be letting her give herself and the allies in 2 spaces the dull alt status, which is something that Marnie also gives you. So yeah, they're really trying to make her the premium Marnie. And she applies the Divine Veins Stone Terrain on her space, and these spaces in 2 spaces for 2 turns. And this is 2 turns like Duo Hathran's Green Terrain and Duo Fiorm's Ice Terrain, and that is super relevant because this is there for 2 turns, and this is gonna be protecting you from AoE nuking even more with their other units. So this might actually save you and something like Summoner Duels, because there is going to be Larathra there to inflict the assigned decoy, which is going to be forced on you. So your Savior is always not going to be useful. Then there's also going to be the undefended status that you might face, so it can certainly help. And the Stone Terrain just helps her even more with the AoE nuking. And if that wasn't clear enough, they have got a demonstration for you with Emblem Sigurd here, who's going to be absolutely doing the ting sound, and he's just going to be getting taken out because he doesn't have the highest resistance. So here he does move with his extra movement, but does nothing to Rhea. Then she can near save, and she can just survive and take him out. So that is the main thing with Sigurd, that he can do a lot of AoE damage, but if you're not able to finish off in the actual combat, then even NIDHOGGRs are really annoying, and Rhea even more so. So this is going to be the Valentine Banner. It is, as you can see, quite powerful with the upgraded versions of Three Houses Lords that all have extra actions. And then we have got an insane monstrous tank in Duo Rhea, who is really fitting as a near savior, the best one. And it is going to be a bit hard to allocate your orbs to it if you're a low spender or a free-to-play player, because March is coming next month and it has got a Hero Rises and an Emblem Hero. So those definitely take quite a bit of priority for many people, especially the Emblem Hero that you can not really afford to miss out on. And the Hero Rises might also end up being really good. So you could wait until the Hero Rises results and decide if you want to summon on that, and then you could allocate your orbs to it, because this banner is certainly strong, and even one copy of any of these units is going to be helping you quite a lot, especially if you get one copy of Rhea, because she is an amazing unit. And even Edelgard, like melee nuking, is going to be helpful there with her unique niche of disabling these specials, which I guess we're going to be seeing even more. And then we have got the Tempest Trial, where we have got Valentine Hubert, and I believe this alt now makes it so that every single student from Three Houses has got an alt now, or I guess a seasonal version, not exactly an alt. There are missing the original version, but still. So here is Valentine Hubert as the Blue Mage armor, and he has got an inevitable weapon in Devoted Cup Plus, which debuffs the enemy and the enemies near 2 spaces of them with the -7 speed and resistance debuff and the Discord status. And you also get Omni plus 5 in the combat and 25 true damage, which is not bad for an inheritable weapon. So this kind of weapon is going to be fitting for any kind of dancer like Renea or Dorothea, because this means that they can free up their slot B skill from any kind of debuffing skill, especially Dorothea, and you could just run a dance skill or really any other skill like cantrip skill, which can go really well with the debuffs of this weapon. So you could debuff all of the stats of the enemy, and this can also be helpful on any kind of really low attack blue mage that might be old, and if you just want to have some support out of them, then this can be the weapon of choice. Unfortunately for Hubert himself, he has got one of the worst allocated stat spreads that I've seen in the modern times, because like, what is the speed? It is nowhere near fast and it's nowhere near slow. He has got 23 defense, so he's gonna be dying to a bunch of archers, dagger units, and most of the nukes that we have got nowadays at range are gonna be physical. The armor killers like Attune Micaiah don't really care about that, and they're gonna be there because they're trying to counter NIDHOGGR. So of course Hubert is gonna be facing them as well, and he does have the high attack stat. That is the best stat spread he has got going, but like I said, this kind of allocated stat spread is really in a weird position because he cannot get Shield Fighter as a range armor. He does not have the defense of running Wildly Fighter or Slick Fighter because they're flat damage reduction scales of the defense, and he doesn't really have much of it. He can only run Clever Fighter that well because he's not all that fast. I mean, sure, you could, I guess, try and do it, but long term, it's not going to be sustainable, really. So he is in a weird position where not a lot of slot B skills go well for him. We don't even have Bullfighter 4. He cannot even get the Assault Rush that we have got on Valentine Edelgard because range armors are not allowed to have any kind of fun. So he cannot even get help from his liege in that aspect. So he doesn't have a lot of options, unfortunately. But when it comes to the seals, we've got Time Pulse 3, which is amazing for pre-charging stuff. But still, it doesn't really give you the extra stats. And nowadays, we just have so much opportunity cost if your seal is not giving you any kind of stats. And the only seals that are going to be worth running that don't give stats are going to be unique sacred seals like Hardy Bearing. But still, you know, Time Pulse 3 does make it flexible because it's not the easiest Slotsy skill to get, especially if you're a free-to-play player. It's not available on, like, you know, demoted units or real units. So it is nice. And then we have got attack speed prime 3, so it does give you the extra stats in the mix phase if you have the enough status effects. So this video was kind of long, but I'm going to be going even more in depth in my banner review, and I'm also going to be going over the best units that can make use of the fodder of these units, so look forward to that. And I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. You can click the link on the screen right now to check out my breakdown of the Legendary Ira and Athos banner, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Sigurd's AoE damage against Rhea. So with that, let's see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.